Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. I'm going to be taking you through the basics of drop caps and why we use them. First off, why do we use drop caps? Basically we want to draw the reader's attention to the beginning of a section or a paragraph. Hence they're normally larger or styled differently to the rest of the text or whatever font you decide to use in your paragraph style. I'm using Indesign CS4, but you can follow along in Indesign CS3 and CS2 as well. You might not have a couple of the options in CS2, but you can still follow along. To set a paragraph style, simply select in the paragraph you want that paragraph style to be in. It's important to know that this will only apply to the paragraph that you currently put the text tool in. If you were to select another paragraph, it would apply to that paragraph. But if you select this paragraph, you go up here to the top panel and you select the paragraph tools, and these two options here are basically what you use to play around with drop caps. Now if you increase the setting here, what that does is it increases the drop cap to the amount of lines that you set up here. So at the moment you can see the drop cap is taking 3 lines, and that's what we've set up there. At the moment we're taking 1 character, but if you wanted to, you could increase this to more. But I'm going to go back down to 1. Now if I zoom in quickly to this, you can see that the left hand side isn't quite aligned to the margin on the left hand side. Now to do this, you're going to have to open up the slightly more advanced option panel, and to do that you've got a few options. You can either come here to the very top right and select the panel bar there and select drop caps and nested styles, or you can use the shortcut Alt Control R, or there's also a third way. If you hold down Control Alt and you click on that, it opens up this panel here. Now at the moment I'm not clicked in it, but if I click in it and do the same thing, you've got 3 lines there and 1 character, which is what we've set there. But we've also got these 2 options: align the left edge, which when you click and you select preview, it moves the character to the very left hand side. It looks at the character shape and it moves it and aligns it to the left hand side so that everything is neat. The other option here is scale for descenders, and I'll show you what that does in a second. Let's say you're using the letter Q, more importantly a capital Q. Now straight away you can see that the bottom of this Q is gone beyond its baseline and it's overlapping here, and that's basically the problem we have here with the descender, in that the drop cap is too big as it is and needs to be scaled down because it is a descender, as it were. So if you again select the align to left edge tool, but this time also click the scale for descenders tool, what it does is it scales the Q down, and oh sorry, I didn't mean to cancel that, let me show you that again quickly. And you have your Q. Now you can neaten this up. It needs a bit of kerning because if you look at the bottom here, the A is quite close to the bottom of this Q again. So you go up to the type tool and increase the spacing there, and basically play with that until you're happy with it. I'm not quite happy with that. I'd take it a bit more than that. But basically you play around with that until you're happy. Let's say you wanted to move this up, drop cap from its baseline, and you just select it and you play around with these settings here until you are happy. If you want it to make it wider or closer, then you can do, but bear in mind all these settings are relative. It says 12 point, obviously this Q isn't 12 point, it's referring to the actual size of the font here, which is 12 point, but anything you do to this Q is relative to what it would do to the font, but it's just slightly bigger. Now I've shown you the proper way of making a drop cap, but let's say you wanted to use a fancy font. Let's say you wanted to use an F, and you want this F to be made from a fancy font, let's say English. This is a font I have on my computer. Sorry, make that an F. And as you can see, you've got this drop cap here, which is quite big. You've instantly got the problem with kerning. If you keep increasing that till you're happy, then that's what happens. But as you can see, you've got this massive space here, and that to me is a bit of a waste. Although we do like this drop cap to have a bit of space, I think that's just too much space and it looks somewhat awkward. So what you can do is you can cut that drop cap out of there, delete the settings you've got here, so don't have any drop cap settings in that paragraph whatsoever. You paste that back in, you paste the F that you've just cut out in, and don't forget this is still a drop cap. If you look at the settings, it's 12 points, it's still a drop cap. Let's go to the type tool here and create an outline. What that does is it converts the shape into the font into a vector shape, sorry. And if you look a little closer, as you can see with the direct select tool, it's gone and basically traced the shape of that letter. And now, seeing as it's an object, you can apply some text wrapping to it, and as you can see the text wrap there grows. But the benefit of doing the drop cap this way is that the drop cap now then takes full advantage of the shape of the character, so that space isn't wasted. If you're to make it bigger, make it more stylistic, so you want to do something like that, it's slightly more flexible, and what happens here is the space isn't taken up, and yep, the reader's still attracted to the beginning of the paragraph, but you've gone and played around with it. Now you could play around with that until you're happy. I wouldn't be quite happy with that and maybe want to move it up a bit, get it so that the F and the O are slightly closer, and maybe try and play with this space underneath here. I don't quite like that, so you go into text wrap again, maybe drop it 1, move it up, but basically keep playing with that until you're happy, until you've got the settings that you like. Another thing to look into is anchored objects. If you want to take this further, let's say you were to move this paragraph down, what would happen is that would unfortunately stay where it was. So that would stay where it was, and every time you move the paragraph, you move the text, it wouldn't stay with the F. Whereas if it's an anchored object, then what would happen is every time you move that bit of text, or if you were to place the anchor right here just before the O, then every time that moved, it would move with it. So those two would always stay together, almost like a grouped object. But don't ever do that. That's some nasty InDesign trick, that grouping an object and a text box, unless you really have to. Okay, that's it. That's the end of this tutorial. I hope that's inspired you to go out and try something of your own, or maybe give you an idea to do a custom drop cap in Illustrator or something and bring that into InDesign. If you've got any questions, feel free to email, and as always, please leave comments at the end of the post. Thank you for listening.